Well, it's great to be with you today, Lori.
Hi.
And we get to share a topic that we love, both of us, and mentoring. And I think the biggest question out of the blocks is why are we even adding extra time talking about mentoring? And why is mentoring a big deal in the Vantage Point 3 processes? And I guess I would say that in the journey process, we invite everyone, every participant, to reach out to have a mentoring experience. And so it is a kind of one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 elements of the journey experience. And in each pathway process, there are mentoring components. And maybe you can talk more about how you see those show up in the way of life and walking with others.
Yes, in the journey, you're going to be invited into a one-on-one mentor relationship. But then in walking our way of life, you're asked to be in that one-on-one mentoring relationship. And then you get practice at a peer mentoring experience, which is meeting with 3 to 4 people right in your class time and just getting practice to care for one another. And so it's a new experience. And then in walking with others, you're again invited into that individual mentor relationship. You're going to get a deeper peer mentoring experience by participating in spiritual friendship triads. And those meet every 3rd class session, which is really fabulous. And then there's the invitation to walk along someone else and become a mentor yourself. So through all the Vantage Point 3 processes, we just continue to invite people into really a Jesus way of living, in a relational, spiritual companionship kind of rhythm of life.
Well, and I think what comes to my mind, sometimes I'll get asked at a training session, why mentoring? Why is this included? And I think we're recovering the fine art of friendship. Mentoring is kind of a big fancy word, but really what we wanted to recover is this Jesus way, like you said, this Jesus way of walking alongside others. And the invitation to reach out to someone to be a mentor, though a little daunting, is actually a great excuse to have an intentional time with someone you may know well or somebody you may not yet know that well. And so I think it's just a great path to embody, like you say, Lori, this Jesus way.
And Pam, you say all the time that we discover, how's it go? We trust that we discover the best things about God and the Holy Spirit in our lives when we're with someone else, like when we're in the context of relationships, right? Like that's where our best discoveries come out of. And so it just kind of makes sense that we're able to have these conversations with people. It becomes a beautiful, sacred place to just see what's happening in our hearts and what the Lord's up to. So I have some questions, some common questions that facilitators ask us all the time. You ready for those?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Give it a go.
Okay. So as a facilitator, do I get a mentor myself if I'm the facilitator of the group?
Great question. Yeah, you want to model what you're asking your participants to do. And so I strongly encourage all facilitators of all of our processes to have a mentor. It may be one they've already had, it may be a new one, but definitely to model that experience.
Mm-hmm. And then should I mentor someone in the group as a facilitator?
So it's likely that many people in your group may want you as their mentor. And my answer to that is, A, you kind of don't want to play favorites to anybody. And B, you are, and this would be my answer to them, is that you are going to be providing a group mentoring influence already. So they're going to kind of get you as a mentor. So use this as an opportunity to reach out and have another person investing their time and friendship.
Mm-hmm. And it could be pretty overwhelming if you're mentoring several people and facilitating a group and doing all the other things that you're doing. Next question, how often do you recommend mentors meet?
We would say in the journey process, the individual, we would say at least once a month. I think that's good. I think a little more frequent than that, like a couple of times a month, would be awesome. And you could do that now. You could do it virtually, like Lori and I are meeting right now. You could do it in person in ways that feel comfortable to you, or some kind of a combination.
What about asking people outside your church or your setting to be a mentor? What do you think about
Oh,
that?
yes, absolutely. I'm all about it. The first example that comes to my mind is a woman who um, reached out to a coworker who she knew was a faith friend, but they had never been more intentional in their conversations. And so they walked together over the noon hour, literally walked and talked about the things that the participant had on their mind, and her friend served as a mentor. Someone that you admire that is in another church, or someone, a friend that you know, absolutely. Don't close in just to your church family, although there may be good choices there.
Okay, so talk more about who would be a good mentor.
Oh, first of all, the language mentor is a huge hurdle for all of us. We tend to not think of ourselves as being a mentoring kind of person. We think of that as sort of a kind of a upper, someone's farther ahead of us, kind of an answer person, has knows everything. And that's pretty high bar. And so I think it helps to just think about who have been, when you look back, mentoring influences in like my own life. And those have been lot, primarily friends who over time our friendship got deeper. Um, there have been teachers for sure, and coaches and pastors and authors who have been mentoring influences, but many times they have been peers who, through the category, the fabric of our lives, we have overlapped, and then we have gotten to go deeper. And so, though it might be nice to have someone who's 20 years along ahead of us in all kinds of ways, that may not be a reality of what we can integrate into our lives right now. So who is someone who's at a season of life with us, who our lives overlap, who we respect and admire, just maybe even from a distance, we'd like to get to know more, or someone that we already have a great friendship with and our chemistry is great, and we just want to make a more intentional turn in how we spend our time for a season. What would you say, Lori, to the who?
When I think about because I've been through several processes and have had to choose or find my own mentor, and I find myself thinking about who I'm drawn to, either my own people group or my people in my church or people that I know, friends. But I'm like, who would I love to have at my table for a couple hours once a month and have a glass of lemonade or a cup of coffee or some tea with? So I kind of prayerfully think about, who am I drawn to? Who's the Lord leading to me to that I want to share with, and just have their presence in my life? And that has shown up some beautiful people for me as well.
And I think too, Lori, the who question, I always tell people, pray about it. Just pray about it. I've had seasons in life where I've gone 18 months praying for kind of the who of some kind of a more intentional spiritual friendship. And then I've had seasons where, in a matter of a week or two, when I've been thinking about a need that I have, a topic that I want some wise counsel on, that somebody may come to mind right away, and I pay attention to that. So the prayerfulness of it is, I think, always precedes that asking.
And I've reached out and asked other people and said, I'm looking for a mentor. Like, who might come to your mind that you think would be a good fit for me? And that has proved to be wonderful for me as well. So all kinds of avenues to think about it and pray about it and find that mentor.
Mm-hmm. And if I were a facilitator, and I've done this when I've been facilitating, and I want to help my group think about the who, I think going to a flip chart or a whiteboard and just start like, okay, you guys, who have been wise presences or who have provided a mentoring influence in your life. and what were some of the qualities about them? And I would just kind of let everybody sort of, oh, they were this, and they were, they were great at asking questions, and oh, they were a wonderful listener, or they just let me be me. Whatever those kind of qualities were, to kind of get that up on a whiteboard, then I think it enlarges our imagination for the who,
Mhm.
and takes away this, oh my goodness, this kind of perfect person who has all the qualities that we want. And because I'm not sure that's out there like that.
Yeah, I would add to that. Every once in a while, people struggle with finding their who or their mentor, right? But we encourage the facilitators to just continue to hold that bar, and it might not happen the first week, and it might take a month or two before that person shows up or comes together. So to be patient with that process, but very intentional with
Mm-hmm.
that process of seeking a mentor.
Mm-hmm. I hear the term seeking an intentional friendship, intentional spiritual conversation. I think that can help kind of lower the bar and make the hurdle look like something, oh, I could do that. I want to do that. Um, what would like the time together look like, Lori? So let's say we've identified somebody, we set up a time when we're going to get together for the first time. Can you give us just sort of some pointers on how to, you know, get what that looks like?
Mm-hmm. And I encourage facilitators to have this conversation again with your participants, do that whiteboard exercise of who that would look like, but then also together as a group, talk about like what your expectations are that this is going to look like. Because if we don't name those, it can really turn into a disappointment for people, and we don't want that to happen. And the mentors want to do this well, they want to participate and show up well. Your participants want to do this well. So I think it's great to get everybody on the same page. But the second set of expectations that I want to talk about are just three really good, we call them skills, that we're just hoping for and looking for in that mentor relationship. And we talk about them over and over and over, but I just want to name them again because I think it's just a great idea to have the mentor and the participant talk about these and say, this is really what it is. Like, it's not rocket science, but these are the things that we're going to be intentional about. And the first one of those is simply listening well. Listening well. Margaret Gunther calls it holy listening. And that term has just captured my heart the past couple of years. And she calls holy listening just offering our presence and attentiveness to the person who's speaking. And so when we say it like that, it just helps us breathe a little bit and relax in what we're up to. Knowing that together we're just seeking what the Holy Spirit is up to in our lives. And so listening well, and then out of listening well comes that asking good questions that you mentioned, Pam. You know, some of us are really good at questions, and some people, we need some help with that, and that is just fine. We have all kinds of resources that give you some actual questions to use. We would say, Pam, you and I would say, pick one or two. Otherwise, it turns into an interview, and nobody, it's not so much fun anymore. One or two good questions that you can ask as you're listening well to people. And questions about, we say curiosity, right? And inquiry versus digging for, details or wanting to give advice or too much input. Help people unpack what God is up to in their lives. And I think that even if as the participant, if they have a great question, it's a great thing to say, hey, ask me about this next time. I feel something stirring, so I don't want to forget about it. So remember to ask me next time. I think that's great. And so to not be afraid of that and to engage in those questions is the second one. And then the third skill or piece that we want during this time together is simply prayer. Just a prayerful heart, a prayerful spirit. It is just a beautiful thing to know someone's praying over you or over me. And so inviting the Spirit into that conversation is gift, really.
The mentoring guide is a resource that we offer to all of you as participants for you to give to your mentor, the person that you've asked to journey alongside you. However, you too may like having this as a resource because it's just it was written to be very practical. very hands-on and very helpful to kind of help demystifies this area of mentoring. And I have just a couple of places to land initially by way of pages. I'm not going to go through these, but pages 10 and 11, 3 essential skills, which Lori kind of just unpacked: listening, good questions, and prayer. Pages 38 and 39 have simple meeting formats. That's kind of a great place to consider what you're going to do when you're together. And pages 28 and 29 is just our encouragement for a mentor to begin where people are, to just start where you are. Don't try to be anything but yourself. So those are some good landing points to kind of think about what this is going to look like. What else comes to your mind, Lori?
Well, I was going to list another resource, and that's in the Pathway Guide on pages 54 and 55. As you're having that mentoring discussion with your participants, those couple of pages will set you up pretty well.
And do those talk a bit about, as I recall, training mentors? Like if you're a facilitator, there is, I guess, an option to consider that the mentors that your participants gather, you could hold some kind of a group training session. Do you have anything that you might recommend or add about that, Lori?
Well, we have some resources in our toolbox as well that gives you an outline of what that type of training could look like. And some of the people are already doing it in their own churches. They have that all set up, have a great mentoring culture, and that's already happening. And for other places that it just might be new. So however it looks is fine. I like the intentionality to think about, hey, what do our mentors need? And how can we come alongside them as well? So it becomes a joint, unified process for everyone.
This is kind of going back to a common question, but I think this is a particular, whose responsibility is it to make sure that we keep meeting? And I just would say, to clarify that, the mentee or the participants, it's their responsibility, in my opinion, to set up when are we going to meet again, to initiate the let's get together again, let's do this again at the same time, will this work for you, versus assuming that the mentor is going to drive that showing upness. Now, mentors need to show up, everybody needs to show up, but I think just knowing who's taking the lead on the organizing, and that is the mentee or the participants.
The other thing I would add about what the time looks like is to use your content that you're reading about in the journey material as your content, and just to be careful about not bringing in or not feeling like you need to bring in a bunch of other devotions and resources. The whole hope is that the mentor is asking about, what are you learning in class, and what are you hearing, and how is the Spirit nudging you as you unpack this material and hear from other people. And so full permission to keep it so simple. Like, that's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love everything that you've added, Lori, and just the kind of the things that we're thinking about. And I just want to encourage you as facilitators to continue to invite your people toward a mentoring relationship. They will be, not everyone's a home run, but you're helping them uncover for themselves the beauty of friendship and walking alongside and intentionality. And hopefully that's something that will carry with them long after the journey, way of life, or walking with others experiences have concluded. So this is the recovery of friendship the way Jesus would love to have it done. And just as an aside, I can't help but say, as I get to have this call with Lori and I are buddies, and we have had some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful friendship, mentoring influences on each other over a period of a decade. And so, Lori, it's cool to get to talk about this with others.
Yes, amen to all of that.
Thanks, everybody.